Tuungane sote na tushereke pamoja ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
Family, once again, welcome to Humanist TV Africa, and I love the lyrics of this music. I love it. Africa should come together as one tree with many branches, a big tree like all my Africa children. And today, I'm here with Kwaku Agyeman Duah, the thinker or the philosopher. Or the Socrates or the Plato. So Kwaku Agyeman is in the building, and we are going to talk about Ghana. It's not a rich country. The honest truth. Kwaku is telling us in the face, upon all the promises made to us, that we are so special as Ghanaians, that we have everything, we got everything, and we are the richest country in the world. Kwaku Agyeman, my fellow Ghanaian, is laughing at the is laughing and saying, no, that's not the case. We don't have the money. We are not rich. So Kwaku will be here in the house to explain how he is able to arrive at that conclusion. But before that, I want you to subscribe to Humanist TV Africa on Facebook, Humanist TV Africa on Twitter, Humanist on X, Humanist TV Africa on YouTube, and also do subscribe to our channel, comment, like, and also share for us. So without wasting much time, let me bring Kwaku to the law court, and all Ghanaians, all eyes are on Kwaku. Kwaku, welcome to the building.
Thank you, Nana.
Yeah.
How are you
Ever
doing?
since I'm doing well, I just want to go straight to the point. Ever since you told me Ghana is not a rich country, I'm having a sleepless night all over. Ever since I heard this coming from you, and I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe it, and you have to explain this. And if we're able to explain this, and it's Kwaku, why are you saying Ghana is not a rich country?
Okay. What is the equation for being rich? There is a very simple equation. There are two components of this equation, and that is your revenue or your income and your expenditure. So if your income exceeds your expenditure, it means you have some more money, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And if your expenditure exceeds your income, you are most likely not rich. Of course, I understand that the equation is more complex than I have simplified it to be, because you may have assets or things that may not be maturing instantly. For instance, if I have a 90-day treasury bill, it means even though I've lost money, in 90 days, I'm going to get some money to add to mine. So when you put your current or your present situation and you look at your future, say over 1 year, are you going to raise more revenue than you are going to spend? If it is not so, I want to believe you are not a rich country. You don't necessarily need to be a poor country. Every country has debts, and if my understanding is correct, even in the US, their debt exceeds their revenue. The thing about the US is that they have the capacity to pay that debt, I think, within 5 to 10 years' time, even though they keep on adding. So it is not wrong to be in debt. That is not the point. But in the case of Ghana, we don't have a way out of our debt. We are only going to keep on compiling or compounding debt on and on. and our revenue is never going to catch up from in the foreseeable future. At least that is the scope, and that is why I say Ghana is not a rich country.
It's understandable. It's
Mhm.
understandable, and we've not heard anyone telling us this before. To be
Mhm.
honest with you, uh, we've had so many lectures all across the country. Politicians comes on platform that no one have ever. We've never heard. Even teachers don't tell us. I know economics wise, you are top notch, but what you are saying, isn't it quite? Because we are told that we have lot and lot of resources, minerals
Yes.
under our feet, even
Yes.
with our president saying YETE SIKA SO,
Mhm.
with the name YETE SIKA SO. So he is the president of the land, and
Yeah,
he has
in his
been with.
defense,
Yeah,
he said that when he was in opposition. I mean, he
he
said that
said
when he was in opposition.
he was in opposition.
Yes.
But why will he say that? Because he knows that we have money, we have
Yes.
kudi, we have lajan, we have kwacha
No.
here in
See,
Ghana.
a lot of people don't. Let me say, do the math very well.
Okay.
Now, assuming you have 50 kilos worth of gold right now, that gold you can't use it to buy anything. You understand? You can't use that gold to say go to any restaurant and buy food to eat. You need to convert it to cash. So having the gold is insufficient to mean you have the money. Very far from that. Somehow you should be able to convert what you have into physical cash or in any form that you can expend. Yes, we have oil, we have all those things, but we don't own the oil. We have given off these oil fields to uh, companies, and these companies are actually multinational companies. To the best of my knowledge, none of them is even Ghanaian. I stand to be corrected. But even where there are lots of Ghanaian elements, there are lots of foreign elements. So we take like a share. We have a share in some of them, and we collect our taxes and other things. But assuming we even discover that the whole of, say, northern Ghana is sitting on oil, that is insufficient to turn it into cash. The country, is it Venezuela? Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. It has more oil than Saudi Arabia, yet it is not as rich as Saudi Arabia. So having the oil is insufficient to turn it into cash. Somehow you must extract the oil, process it, and sell it. Extracting it is equally not sufficient. It's like palm nut.
Okay.
Yes, if you have palm nut, you don't have soup. The palm nut alone are not insufficient to make you soup. You need to sort of grind it or pound it and extract the oil from it. Then you can use the oil for something. So the one who grows the palm tree doesn't make as much money from it because you need to add some form of value. The palm nut alone is not value. It's it has its value. Let me say it has its value, but not as much as palm oil has. The only time a palm nut is useful is when the oil has been extracted from it. But in Ghana, we are not the ones extracting value from uh, our products like the oil, the gold, and the other things. We don't add value to it. We sell them in its raw state. The crude oil that we take, we mine, for instance, nobody puts crude oil in his or her car. We put either petrol or diesel or LPG or something else. So the crude oil is insufficient. Somehow, you need to break it into its constituents, and it is the constituents that are useful. So the one who is processing will come and buy from you. And once the person buys from you, it is at that time that the person says, I have added value X to it, so I'm adding to it, and now we have to go and buy. So let us not be, uh, let us not be confused about anything. Having the mineral is insufficient to make you money. You need to process it. You need to add some value to it. Take cocoa. We don't eat the cocoa. It's not part of our meals. It's the milu, as we commonly call it. That is a useful product from the cocoa, or when they turn it into chocolate. So the one buying the chocolate, ask yourself how much is required to grow cocoa. You don't need a lot of skill to grow cocoa. It's a matter of planting the cocoa and harvesting the pods, right? That you can train virtually everybody to do. But what does it take to transform the cocoa seeds into a bar of chocolate? How many people have that idea? So it is that idea that makes chocolate more expensive than cocoa. And not until we are adding value to our commodities, we can never be rich.
So,
We
so
can
in
never
other
be
words,
rich.
in other
Mm.
words, the mere fact we have the resources doesn't make us rich.
It doesn't make it, it has never made anybody rich to start with. As I said, the Venezuela, if it's not Venezuela, it's one of those South American countries, has more oil than Saudi Arabia, and yet they are not the richest. As a matter of fact, Canada even has more oil than Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia makes more money from oil than those two countries.
So with Saudi Arabia and these Gulf countries, what
Mm.
is their trick then?
Well, their trick is a very complex one. See, initially they were just like any other country. There was not much going on. They mostly relied on the yearly Mecca pilgrimage for foreign inflows. It was, let me say, a barren land until they discovered oil. But the oil they discovered was discovered by the Americans. So for a long time, the Americans controlled the oil, but through the use of some, let me say, power, you understand, they wrestled control of the oil companies from the Americans to themselves. So they set up the Saudi Aramco company, which was the state company, and it began buying shares from the Americans. Of course, in the business, not everything in the business like practice, not everything is fair. So some would have been acquired unfairly, some would have been acquired fairly, but eventually they controlled about 98%. They now control. They have 100% control, which is state control. But for a long time, the Americans controlled the oil production in Saudi Arabia. So
So,
we
so
can't do that.
how did they
Let's
able,
not.
because in Ghana and in many African countries, we know our colonial masters are still here, still reaping
Mm,
the profit of our resources. So,
mhm,
so in application of this tactics or this
mm.
trick the Saudis use, how will we be able to use that to also get these resources, to the profit of these resources for ourselves?
Yeah, it's a risk we don't need to take. You understand? If something worked in the 70s, there is little guarantee that it will work in 2024. Mm,
Okay.
yes. And as I said, some would have been acquired fairly, others would have been acquired unfairly. If you are going about, because of the way their governance is set up, where power is entrusted onto absolute power is trusted to one person, it's easier to get certain things done. You understand? But it is very difficult to get those same things done under a democratic administration like Ghana. Should we sacrifice the benefits of democracy for an alternative form of government? I don't think so. Despite the challenges of democracy, I still think that we should stick to it and try to modify it to suit our needs and not necessarily abandon democracy. Because if you are going to entrust power in, say, an authoritative government, are you ready to sacrifice some rights of yours for that authoritative government to succeed? And what is the guarantee that they will succeed? We've seen authoritative governments in Africa where the president will go and set up an airport in his hometown. Once the president is no more, that airport becomes more like a cattle grazing field. You understand? The main reason why he set up that airport was it is his people. And we've seen similar governments where there several tribes are fighting each other, or one tribe sort of consumes others. They become overlords of the others. Imagine simply if our autocratic governor president is from it's a Ghana. Let me say that. Does that mean he's going? It means he's going to sort of impose Ghana ideas, and we'll be lucky if we don't get such a person. Of course, there can be people who are autocratic, but still understand the need for diversity. But for an autocratic, even if he is the one who would succeed him, there is no guarantee that he would understand the need for diversity. Would you be singing Pulumashi? Is that if that is how they call it? Or would you like to see some women dancing Adowa? You see. So I think
not really, but with powers in one place in an autocratic, as you said, usually let's take Chairman Mao and the Chinese. Because the leaders really knew what they were about and needed to help the people. Their empathy level was high. As compared, like you are telling me, we are poor, we are not rich. But look at I made the Snake software scandal. Madam Cecilia Dapa, just one single bed, one bed, we got almost $2 million and that one bed, and she has over hundreds of beds here in Ghana. NHIS scandal. I'm just talking about recent scandals, and this is just
but you do realize that those scandals happen all over the world. And if you like, let's put we are assuming that Cecilia Dapa did not earn her money rightfully. Let's assume, for the purposes of this conversation, that she didn't earn it rightfully. Let's put all those monies together. The question is, how much is it? What can it do? It can make an impact. You understand? It's not that it can just buy us pure water.
We went to the IMF for, I think, 1.5 billion.
No, the whole package is 3 billion.
3 billion.
And we have gotten I think less than 1.5 million as at now.
Okay.
You understand?
And we spent almost $400 million on this shit, this whole we call a national cathedral.
Yes,
Don't you think we are doing something that the nation itself is blessed with resources and is supposed to be a rich country? Don't you think it's the leaders and the people here in Ghana who are rather thwarting our chance of being rich?
Okay. They are. I'm saying they are. But even if they had the best of intentions and decided to do everything right and decided not to squander a single peso out of our coffers, we still wouldn't be far off from where we are now. Do you understand?
I don't understand, because those money will be channeled into industrialization, as you said. If this money is able to build factories to process our cocoa here, if the leaders are empathic enough to know that even $20 million can build something for, can build a lab where people can go and study. We are not doing. There are some things, basic things we have to do. We are spending. We just went to AFCON and spent, I think it was at $8 million.
No, they spent. I think they've spent like 5 million or so.
5 million.
They spent yes, out of the 8.
On football, we spent 2 weeks.
No.
2 weeks.
But
so don't you think it is our leadership, the misplaced priorities? Ghana is a rich country, but okay, I'm holding on.
That 8 million or that 5 million that you are talking about, not all were spent in Ivory Coast. For instance, their flight to and fro Ivory Coast, the flight of the players from their various countries, all those things are part of it. They came to Kumasi, spent some few days in Kumasi, they are feeding. So when they say AFCON budget, it is not about the tournament itself, but the preparations. Of course, I'm not saying that justifies them
spending 5 million just 2 weeks on some 11 players wearing shorts, playing, chasing one.
There were not 11 players. I believe there will be about 23 players.
23 players.
23
players on our screens. That's why
the coach, the technical team, and the thing in Ghana is we also send supporters. So the cost of transporting those supporters and all other things, you understand? Their hotel accommodations, they can't just go and put them in a 200 city hotel. They are going to represent.
Upon hearing you, what you are saying, we are not rich, we are this, we are that. Don't you think, like this small amount of money? It is small, $5 million US, but it can build something massive.
Yes, but there is a potential. See, the Black Stars sell. The national football also brings in a certain value to the country. As in, if from 2006 to and especially in 2010, because of our performance in, we sell. They sold the country. People became more interested in Ghana. Look at do you watch football, by the way?
I watch football.
You're okay. Can you
I don't waste my time on
football? Arsenal. Arsenal. Do you remember the inscription in front of their shirt?
I think Rwanda.
Visit Rwanda.
Visit Rwanda, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's a waste of time for a whole country?
No.
Yes. So it's a form of advertisement. So if the Black Stars are successful, it's a form of advertisement for the country. You understand? So spending money on the Black Stars is not, quote and unquote, a waste as such. Because they bring in some value. There's a value to advertisement. And every country, Malaysia, if you remember the 2000s, the way they used to advertise on CNN.
CNN, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the Black Stars, if you meet people from, or if you met people from other countries, especially after 2010 World Cup, they were talking like, hey, Black Stars, you understand? It sort of exposed the country more to the world, because the World Cup stage is one place where you can advertise your country virtually for free. All you need to do is to be present. And the AFCON is one such opportunity to sell your country.
It is true. Selling our country through the Black is true.
Yes.
It is true. But the bone of contention here is you see, you are telling us Ghana is not a rich country.
Yes.
And for now, I still stand I still stand and say Ghana is
against
a
the
rich country.
motion.
Yes,
Okay.
against them. And you are telling me the Black Star can even take care of themselves and they can still shine. And there are other FAs doing that. The government is not spending millions of their money on these.
Yes.
So I just want to tell you that the leadership in this country, they are all about stealing the little that is left. And if we are able to get good leadership and able to gather the little that is left and able to utilize our resources for the youth to at least even get something to do and get something, because right now, as I'm telling you, you know, the minimum wage is 15 cedis, which is
minimum wage a day.
A day is 15 cedis for the whole day.
Yeah.
15 cedis, Ghana cedis, which is just above $1. And 15 cedis is just above $1, or let's say it's a pound, £1. We are paid £1 a day, the minimum wage, and you buy a loaf of bread for the same 15 cedis. A loaf of bread for the same 15 cedis, which means your entire day you use your every morning to buy just a single food to eat.
But yeah, you can't even buy water.
No water. You can't even buy water. You can't buy data. You can't pay for transportation.
Yes.
You are at the mercy of diseases and any other. So what I'm telling you, if we know our condition, we know that we are not a rich country. Every little penny that is left will be utilized, and people, the whole country will rally around the pairs of this country, and we'll be able to know what is happening with our money. So at least
I agree with you there. You understand? I'm not defending leadership of the country when I say Ghana is not a rich country. I'm only saying that given what we have and what we do, we are not a rich country. It doesn't excuse leadership and decision making. No, we can still make better decisions and we can still select better leaders. But if we have consistently selected, quote and unquote, bad leaders, is it not the case that we are rather the bad people here? Because we select from the population. You understand? We don't have leaders sitting somewhere.
No, I don't think we are bad people.
No, we should
the people have been hijacked by a smaller minority.
No, we should accept some responsibility on our part as well. That we select the leaders. And if the leader is not performing, and we still go ahead and give the leader more chances, then of course we are also part of the problem. You understand? Because how can somebody, I don't want to get into so much politics and other things, but people would support party A or party B and would never change their mind as long as they are getting some small monthly data bundle and other things from joining that party. They turn a blind eye to other things. And I want to believe there are more of such people in the country than. Why would you go to your member of parliament and ask him to attend your funeral? Of what relevance is that? Why would you demand from your member of parliament that he should construct a bridge for you? Have you spoken to the DCE? You understand? So if you don't understand these simple governance structures, then of course we shouldn't even be selecting leaders to lead us, because we don't know whom to ask for a law to be passed and whom we should ask for a bridge to be constructed, because we have sort of put so much of the task on the wrong person. So before somebody becomes a member of parliament, the person tells you, I'm going to build schools. You should ask yourself, is an MP capable of building a school? No, the MP cannot build a school. It's only the DCE who can build a school. So we tend to allocate problems to the wrong people. Do you understand my point? So
Yeah,
we also need to have that mindset, that right mindset of understanding the governance structure, what it does and what it doesn't do. If I may attack you over here. For instance, you mentioned building factories. See, a government should not build a factory. Assuming Nanado builds a big factory anywhere in Ghana at the moment, how many accountants do you think that factory would employ? There will be one senior accountant.
yeah,
Yes. I don't think there will be, well, for a sizable factory, I don't think there will be more than 5 accounting staff.
yeah,
Understand? And that 5 people is insufficient to employ all the accounting students that are coming out of the universities and other tertiary institutions. A government should not concern itself with building factories. When people say that, I always think it's a bad idea. Government should not. Government should provide services that the private sector and individuals may not be able and should not be able to do, like building schools, building hospitals, constructing our roads. But when it comes to building factories and other things, it should be left to the private sector. The private sector, and that is the model in almost all successful countries. The private sector leads in employment and in other things. Even in estates, government may provide assistance to them and other things. But we have the sort of reverse in our country where government is providing employment to majority of the people, including myself, and providing wants to build factories and other things. Those factories are not going to solve employment problems in the country because for if you have finished the university and they build a tomato processing plant and you have you did political science, what are you going to do at the tomato factory? You understand? The people that the tomato factory would employ are mostly semi-skilled people. You understand? Because you have finished the university, if they ask you to go and stand by the trolley and be packing, you won't do because they will not pay you as much as you want because you have finished the university. So those factories, as a matter of fact, will not solve a problem. They will solve employment for a lot of the unskilled people. But for the skilled people, those who have completed the universities, their fortunes do not lie with government-provided employments. That's my take on that issue.
okay. Thank you very much on that.
Mm.
However, like let's take our population for instance. Just I think around 19, the first time we did something like that was I think 1955 or 1950s around it, and the population was I think around just 5 million people. Right now, I was checking through the population index, and we are over 34 million. So, which means we are entering into a phase which I can describe as it will be very dangerous for all of us because right now the majority of the people are young people from 15 years to 30 years, 35 years. They make over I think 50%, 60%, I think 70% of the population. So with industrialization not our concern, with the government manhandling our economy, various government, it's not as if it is only this government. All the governments that have come one way or the other, they did well, but I don't think there's a true attention, a keen attention on how to utilize the population growth plus our resources and galvanize I think the universities are even the institutions who I think they are able to forecast how we can able to manage our things very well. So I think there is no need for right now. Everybody is Japa is trying to run away from the country, including even people who have decent jobs. People who have decent jobs because they realize if I'm even earning 5,000, 6,000 here in Ghana, and I can earn about 3 times that or 4 times that in a different place. The person, which the brain drain is also affecting it, which means in this situation, we are poor, as you said, agree. We have the resources. Other people are taking the resources, the Chinese and these foreign companies, and our leadership too are not helping us. Yet our population is booming because right now, at least our healthcare system is better than the about 100 years ago. So, are we heading towards a ditch, or uh, are we going to die? It seems the
Well,
future is.
my personal opinion is that given our current trajectory, we are heading for the ditch. But
Yeah.
at all times, the car we are driving in has brakes and has a steer. So we can apply the brakes and turn things around or head in a different direction. The truth is, I wouldn't say anybody knows the exact direction we should head. But once we are on a certain direction or in a certain direction, we should see signs that things are getting better. We can always turn things around. We don't need to end up in the ditch before we call the mechanic to come and fix our car. Then we turn things around. No, because it's more difficult climbing the hill than turning around. So we need to organize ourselves. And I would start with the population. We need to start thinking critically about uh, political promises. Currently, a presidential candidate, that is former President Mahama, says there is going to be a 24-hour economy. You understand? You don't need to just swallow it hook, line, and sinker. Think about it. What does the 24-hour economy imply? Is it good? Is it bad? Another candidate, that is Vice President Baumia, is leading, is it digitalization or digitizing? I think it's more digitalization effort. Ask yourself, what extent? What does it do? What will it achieve? What will be the consequences? You should ask yourself these two questions about each of the promises from the two main political parties and just don't swallow it hook, line, and sinker. Once our mind is made up and we decide to vote for a particular candidate, it's insufficient to simply vote for somebody and just go and sit in your sofa and watch TV. See, having a conversation like this is also contributing to nation development. We should converse around policies and actions of the government. We are lucky social media is there, so we're able to engage a lot and other things. Once people, we make our voices known to the people or to our leaders, I'm sure often they will act. But we must also allow our leaders to act sometimes in our disinterest. The right things for us is not necessarily what is good for us. Do you understand what I'm saying? That the right thing for you is not necessarily what is good for you, because something good and right are entirely two different things. They can be mutually exclusive. You are lucky if it is right and good for you. For instance, somebody has a diabetic foot. Hmm. It is good for the person to have all five toes. Yes, I would like to have all my five toes or my two legs and be walking. That is sort of good for me. But the right thing is that it should be cut, or one of them should be cut, or both of them should be cut so that it doesn't spread. But we as a country sometimes, and once again, I'm happy to be wrong. We sort of think so much in the short term. We don't consider the medium to long term impact of some decisions that we make or some decisions that we want our leaders to take for us. See, it's the same money that is used on education, on healthcare, on environment, on salaries, several things. Assuming the government shift 98% of our monies into education or industrialization, that means there is no more money or there's little money for healthcare, and for other things. So we need to judiciously appropriate monies for each sector that drives the country, not necessarily the economy, that drives the country. If we are not engaging our leaders around that conversation, but we want populist policies that I have launched NAPCO. I never liked the idea of NAPCO anyways. But simply government is going to provide employment for people, whether they are working or not. At the time, I met some people who had very bad feelings about it, and the way the things were being executed. You understand? So it's not enough to say government is going to employ people through NAPCO. It must be demonstrated how NAPCO would be important in driving. At least it should pay for itself. If NAPCO is not paying for itself, then it sounds more like a bad idea to me, I must add. So we should engage our leaders, talk to them, let them know what is the right thing to do, and stop inviting them to funerals and birthday parties. And if they don't come to your birthday party, you think your MP is not doing well. That is never the benchmark for a good MP. I always give the case at this place, Akotia. I think she was called Ajwa something C. She was Amasi, yeah, Amasi. Yes, I don't think I ever got to know her, but she was elected, and the reason why people were shouting was that she was uneducated. Why? Who says if you're uneducated you can't participate in building the country? Nobody was saying that she didn't have anything to contribute to the country, but she was uneducated, and so what? She was a hairdresser, and so what? What does it change? And the following year, the party changed and they lost that seat because the people sort of wanted her as a Amasi in parliament. You understand? Similar thing in Fomena. So we should be like, we should take matters more seriously and stop being petty. Being petty with some. I traveled a lot on the Achimoda and Achima Crossroad, and from Achimoda to Odubiase. The road is in a very terrible state. You understand? Very, very terrible state. But cars from Achimoda going to Accra or going to Swedro as a Manchester, they use that crossroad. And it was terrible. It was one that I don't think even a saloon car would comfortably use. And
Wow.
what are you demanding from your leaders that they should attend your birthday party? It sounds like petty to me. We should focus more on the important things and stop the wamameyi.
And talking about leadership, we are all here in Ghana, and when these major political parties try to choose secret, we all know they paid, and they have to, when they come to power too, they have to get their money back. The MPP paid, the NDC paid, and it's an open, and we don't see anything wrong with it as Ghanaians, because who doesn't want small cash? Everybody needs it. It's more or less our culture. But with that aside, what can we do with agriculture? Because right now we know agriculture have changed from those days where you use cutlasses and hooves. It's now more mechanical, and we are crying in this country that there are no jobs. Whilst our forefathers, our grandmothers were farmers, were agriculturists. So now, how can we make agriculture more, let's say, humane or friendly, or more interesting for the modern day Ghanaian or modern day African? Because I think that is where we belong. And you said we are poor. So if we are poor, then we have to go back to our roots, and our roots is agriculture. We have the lands, but the land doesn't belong to us anyway. But how can we, the youth, or should we wrestle the lands from the
Well,
landowners?
my answer may sound counterintuitive, but we should actually run away from agriculture.
Wow.
we have the recent story of China.
Okay.
Yes, China at the beginning of the 19th century or the 20th century, it wasn't a rich country, was it?
Yeah.
How did they turn things around? Is it by planting more maize? How did they do
No,
it?
they industrialize.
Yeah, so industrialization actually means not doing so much agriculture. Of course, you should be food sufficient. I'm not saying we shouldn't. Today, China produces most of the electric cars that are being used in Europe and in the America, and they are trying to sort of control it, blah blah blah. But the whole point is, if we really want to be rich, eh, we shouldn't be doing agriculture. Is not the pathway to being rich.
But
Who's going to work on?
We spent a lot
It's okay.
importing food to this
Yeah, it's okay.
country.
It's okay. Yes, it's okay to import the food if you have the money. You understand? Listen, there's
We
a
have the land too. We have arable land here in Africa
yes,
too.
listen. The quality of foods that you will send to the UK, like the quality of cocoa that you would send. I think the chocolate factories in Switzerland also.
Yeah, Switzerland.
It's not you can't just send any quality of cocoa there and they will take it. No, they want high quality. You understand? When you have the money and you want to import tomatoes from Burkina Faso, we will determine the quality of tomatoes that we want to eat in this country. So I don't think agriculture, yes, it has its use, but we don't need a lot of people doing agriculture because when there are lots of people doing agriculture, it means you are going to produce a lot of food. Now imagine we produce so much food that we need in a country. Take tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's going to perish. You
No,
understand?
then we industrialize it and can them and export
So
them.
so why don't we skip and get to the industrialized part? Because we don't need to do the production of the tomatoes. We can skip to the industrialized part. If we have a tomato, if we have a tomato factory
And,
now,
and where will we get the raw product?
there's no cocoa farm in Switzerland, is there?
No.
We ship our cocoa from Ivory Coast and Ghana all the way to Switzerland to make our chocolate for us. And we are lucky they plant tomatoes in Burkina Faso. So as to where we will get it, I don't think it is ever an issue because if we can transport cocoa by sea and by air, I don't see why we can't transport tomatoes by road. Because even as we speak, we transport those things by road. If you just go to Bulga, you see them coming by the numbers. If you're in Wa, you see them coming by the numbers. So to me, it's not a bad equation. We should rather concentrate on adding value to the tomatoes. Even if it means importing 100% of our tomatoes from Burkina Faso or from Niger or from Mali, it is okay. It is not bad. As I said, there are lots of countries that don't produce a lot of the things that they eat in there. If you go to USA right now, a lot of those who are working in their farms are actually migrants. You understand?
Yeah.
The real Americans are the farm owners. They are not working in the farms. So if you have the farm, it will not solve the problem because somebody who has or who is educated, completed the university, are not going to say how you give him you give him 2 acres that you should plant. He still needs some humans to do some groundwork.
Yeah.
And in all successful countries, they get cheap labor from the neighboring countries. That is the sad reality of life. You understand? So those farms, when people talk about farms, I vehemently disagree with them. We should not go into farming. Of course, some of us should remain in farming and produce at large scale rather than so many people producing at small scale.
Okay.
Once that is done, the rest, uh, a country like India, India has managed to capitalize on about two things: technology and healthcare. So we have lots of Ghanaians going to India for their healthcare, and that brings some revenue to them. They produce a lot of IT human resource, which are exported to other countries, either working remotely or working in person. You understand? We don't need to do as our grandfathers did, because if what they did were successful, we wouldn't be here. It is because what they did were unsuccessful. That is why we are here right now.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Kwaku. And Kwaku, my last, my, is, I don't know if it's a question or not.
Okay.
Quite recently, from 2016, 2020, thereabout, there were a lot of startup businesses, entrepreneurship, especially by young Africans, young Ghanaians, from certain ages from 20 to 30 years. But I think it have, I don't know if it was the COVID or something, it has slowed quite well, making a lot of money from these startups. Do you think the entrepreneurship drive in Ghana is possible within this framework? Because with interest rates, even with our power generation, so many, because like sometimes I want to work with some, like I'm interviewing right now, we want to work together, but because of power failure, I will not be able to do it. So do you think we, in these difficult times, in this difficult situation, how can the young entrepreneur find his way out? Or the best way is to japa. If you japa, then you come back, then at least you get some place to sleep and also watch the reality movie around.
Well, if I knew the formula, I'm sure. If I knew the, of course, of course, I do have some things to say
Yeah.
About it. I don't think I find it surprising that a lot of these startups failed. Indeed, lots of startups do fail, irrespective of the country that you are in. It's only a few of these startups that end up being successful. And people who are younger than 40 are actually at higher risk of not succeeding than those above 40. That's what the research says. You need to have some experience before you can do things right. You understand? So yes, we had that entrepreneurship drive. Yes, and it went on, and most of them failed. Some have become very successful, some were successful, and due to maybe uh, some personal issues, maybe the way the person was running the company, because there was this Ghanaian company where the guy was, I think, paying himself $80,000 a month or so. And I was like, wow, yeah, in Ghana, you are paying yourself that much. Yes, because he made some wild promises. And yes, of course, the business is going to fail. And I can understand like a 25-year-old person earning 80,000 Ghana cedis, 80,000 US dollars a month, the lifestyle he would lead in Ghana here. I wasn't surprised the company sort of failed. And it goes, see, and around that same time, there was a lot of money in the US, venture capitalists. So there was lots of money. They had made so much money from the technology boom and other things. And as things are, they are ready to spend their money. So when they are ready to spend, they throw the money left, right, center, some of which will end up in Nigeria. Most of them did end up in Nigeria, by the way, and most of them failed. So when they start losing money, then they become wiser and they stop spending. Then they will make so much money. Then it's sort of a cycle. So I'm sure by next year they will start making some money. The AI will come down a little because now there's so much AI everywhere. It's because they have money from their traditional sources, from manufacture and other things.
Yeah.
Now, as to the entrepreneurship, the drive and other things, yes, we should encourage a lot of people into entrepreneurship, but they should also understand that it requires a certain resolve, it requires an attitude, and it does require some element of luck. And in and I would say some political alignment. If you don't have that political alignment, it's not Ghana alone. Everywhere in the world. And by political, I don't mean NDC, MPP, but you need to know somebody who is going to push your product. If nobody is going to push your product, you'll be feeding off the small. So you'll be lucky to meet somebody in a position who will buy into your idea and push it to other circles, whether by advice or by compulsion. That is, they need to have that political, either than that you have all the brilliant ideas. And sometimes to the ideas that they come up with are ideas that are already there. Somebody, if I may criticize something over here, like I heard, it's not something I read, that in the Vice President Baumia's manifesto, or one of his promises was to provide a streaming platform for Ghanaian artists to stream their music and other things. Yes, and was it this the guy who fell out with Nanado? He was a musician. I've forgotten the name.
A+.
Yes, was saying yes, it's a bad idea, and I agree with A+. Why would you want to have a streaming platform for Ghanaians? Because the money in Ghana is not even much. You understand? You would rather want to push them to the popular platforms like Apple Stream or the other one, Spotify, and not have you. Yeah, so if you are going to build your own Google, I'm sorry, it's not going to sell, because there are so many companies that are right behind Google who haven't made it a success, or who have not been successful. So if you are going to build a Google in Ghana here, forget it. You should have some idea that will sell. If you can build another YouTube, you can build another streaming service. No matter how good it is, assuming every Ghanaian joins, you are looking about 20 million people. That's assuming every Ghanaian who is capable of streaming music joins. Give yourself 20 million people. Are you going to charge them in dollars? If you are going to charge them in cedis, how much are you going to charge them? I do think the average Ghanaian will pay 20 cedis a month to listen to music when he can just go somewhere and download it for free. I don't think so. So some of the ideas that also come up needs to be refined somehow. That's my take on that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kwaku. I think we've had a fruitful conversation today, and I'm really glad you joined me in this convo. Kwaku, thank you very much, and I would love to invite you again next week if it's possible for a different conversation altogether. I would love to talk again.
I'm definitely happy to come, except I'm likely to be traveling over the weekend.
Okay.
So if it comes to pass that I'm traveling over the weekend, then mostly I can't do this on my phone or anything. So we can look at another time, maybe the week afterwards. Yes, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kwaku, and we appreciate your effort being here. Family, this is Humanist TV Africa. The name is Kwame Apigi Danka, and today we are ending our program on Ghana is not a rich country. They understood. In fact, Kwaku have been able to convince me that Ghana is not a rich country. So subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Facebook, on X, and all the other social media platforms. Facebook, TikTok, Humanist TV Africa. You can also contact us on info@humanisttvafrica.com. Our WhatsApp on the screen. You can also check us out on our website, www.humanisttvafrica.com. The name is Kwame Apigi Danka. Thank you for joining me. See you another time.
Tushereke pamoja ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu, tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame